Okay, friends, today we are talking about pitch matching and pitch accuracy. And no, I am not going to give you one single ear training exercise because it is not about that. Welcome back to Singing Tips with LJD Studios, a space where we take difficult singing concepts and break them down so you can actually understand and implement them for better singing. I'm Laura, and today we are talking about how to just land on the right note right out of the gate. And again, it has very little to do with your ear. Or if you struggle with matching pitch in general, again, very little to do with your ear, and we're going to talk about why today. But before we get into it, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and if you haven't already, download my free guide, The 3-Tiered Approach to Becoming a Better Singer, linked in the description. Additionally, right now, if you sign up to become a founding member of my membership program, your first month is free. There's no minimum commitment, so feel free to try it out, and if it's not for you, just cancel ahead of that first bill, and you won't be charged a dime. But you get 2 free video feedback mini lessons from me as part of that. So I'd really encourage you to sign up if you haven't already done so. Submit a video of yourself singing. I will watch it. I will respond. That's a huge perk of it, you guys. So make sure you get that also linked in the description. Okay, as always, without further ado, how do you improve your pitch matching ability? It's funny, you guys, when I meet people and I tell them what I do for a living, like 90% of people go, oh, I'm tone deaf, I can't sing. And I don't think they really think that, but there are people out there who really do think like, oh, I can't match pitch, I'm terrible. If you really understood what the term tone deaf meant, don't think you would think that about yourself or say that. Before we talk about what the term tone deaf means, we first need to talk about the difference between tone and pitch. So pitch refers to a frequency at which sound vibrates. So for instance, when an orchestra tunes, they tune to A440, which is this note here. And that note vibrates at a certain number of waves per second, 440, okay? That's what determines pitch, is how many times, what the frequency is, how many times that wave goes up and down per second, right? And we can have higher pitches, which are gonna have faster waves, or lower pitches, which are gonna have slower waves. But that's pitch. Tone is the quality of the sound that you could produce, and it could be at any pitch. So, for instance, if you're talking to someone and you're like, I don't like your tone, right? What you don't like is not the pitch. What you don't like is what is implied because of the tone, right? Like if I am sort of talking down to you, right? Like, well, okay, well, only dumb people don't know that, right? Like it's the tone that implies that like there's some condescension there. So that's how that sort of plays out socially. But in singing, tone can be, it can be really pressed. It can be really breathy. It can be dark. It can be bright. Every single one of those tones I just produced were the same pitch, but they had very different tone qualities, okay? So tone refers to the quality of the sound, not the number of waves per second. So to say that you're tone deaf and to imply that you can't match pitch because you're tone deaf, they're kind of two different things. Tone deaf means you literally can't hear tone. So if you were tone deaf and you were to try to sing Happy Birthday, you'd go like, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear Laura, happy birthday to you. And you'd think you were singing, right? But because you don't have the ability to hear the difference in tone between speech and singing, right? Because when I'm speaking, this actually does have pitch to it, right? And then now that I'm going to singing, it has a different quality to it. The tone is different, but the pitch is roughly the same, right? This is where I'm talking. That's the pitch, right? Now I'm singing. The tone is different, okay? So not to belabor it, but to be tone deaf actually doesn't have a whole lot to do with pitch. Okay, so there's that. Now, let's talk about how to improve your pitch accuracy and why I don't think it really has much to do with your ear. So why do I say that this has so little to do with your ear? In all likelihood, if you are having trouble matching pitch or just with your accuracy on the whole, your ear has heard the pitch. Your brain has processed the pitch. That's not the problem. The problem is getting your voice to match what your brain and your ear have already processed. So you can do all the ear training you want. And it's not going to hurt you. It might help you a little bit, but that's not the root of the problem. The root of the problem is knowing how to aim your voice to the sound that you have already heard. Okay. So I like to think about your voice being like a house with many, many rooms. And most of us live in the speech room most of the time. And the speech room has a very limited pitch center. When you are speaking, there is pitch to it. Don't get me wrong. There's definitely pitch to it, but it's small, right? So if that's the only place you've lived and that's what you're familiar with, when you're trying to match a pitch that goes outside of that area, you might not quite know how to fire, right? So that's what I'm going to give you some strategies for today, is like getting better at aiming your voice to the sound that your ear and your brain have already heard. The first step in this is having an expectation for sensation, okay? And that some teachers might disagree with me on this, but I think your ability to process what you are feeling in your voice and remember that feeling is huge in setting you up for success in singing, because it gives you something to aim for. So if I'm going to continue with this house analogy, right? If you've just been living in your little like speech room this whole time, you have all these other rooms in your house, but the lights are off and you have never been into those other rooms. And so you might like stumble around in the dark for a while and find your way into another room. But if you didn't pay attention to how you got there, you're probably gonna have a hard time getting there again. So it really helps if you can pay attention. The lights are off, right? So what else? You gotta use your other senses. You can't see. So you gotta use your other senses of like, what am I feeling along the way into this room so that I can remember how to get here again. And then the more you do it, the more familiar you are with it. And then just the faster you get there, right? Like the more you do it, the less you're bumping into walls on the way there and stubbing your toe against stuff. And the more you're just like, nope, I know how to get there. And I'm gonna go straight there. I think I've gone about as far down that rabbit hole with that analogy as I can go. But point being, knowing what something feels like is really, really gonna help set you up for success in terms of landing where you wanna land right away. Not only with pitch, but also with tone, with making the sound that you wanna produce. So I always encourage lots of play, lots of experimentation when you're first starting out on this singing journey or when you're trying to improve your singing, because that helps you build up memories of how things feel. But you got to pay attention to what you're doing. And then you memorize the feeling and then you aim for that feeling again so that you can reproduce it. So let's get specific in regards to pitch accuracy. I think that there are really two concepts that are the biggest when it comes to familiarizing yourself with your voice and your expectation for sensation to help set you up to be more accurate with your pitch matching. Number one is familiarize yourself with your different registers. I did a video on this already on demystifying vocal registers, but registers are they're the different rooms in your house. So this is my speaking room. It's really linked to my chest voice room, and I have a video on that too, so check that out. This is my head voice room, and I did a video on head voice as well, but you can hear it has very little in common with my speaking voice, right? It's a totally different room, right? So if you're trying to aim for a note that would be best sung in head voice, and you don't know how to get into that room, you're not gonna land on the right note because you're still stuck down the lower like speech voice room, okay? Just an example. So I'd really encourage you to familiarize yourself with what are the different registers, and that's step one. Like, can you just understand them? And then play around in them. Familiarize yourself with the sensation of being in that register. Find words to describe the feeling, and those words do not have to mean anything to anyone other than yourself. I taught a lesson earlier today, and she was like, it feels like elephant ears wrapping around me. Cool. If I told you to do that, you'd be like, what? That's insane. I don't know what that means. But it meant something to her, and she can repeat it. Right? Find words to describe what you're feeling to help you repeat the experience. So do that first with your different registers: chest voice, head voice, falsetto, vocal fry, what else? Your middle voice, mixed voice, all of that. Familiarize yourself with the sensation, and that's going to give you more accuracy when you are aiming for a certain pitch. You also want to know, like, when I'm aiming for this pitch, what register do I want to be in so that I can aim for it correctly, okay? So that's one area that you can familiarize yourself with. And then the other is your expectation for resonance. So resonance, there's literal resonance, and I did a video on this of like literally what are the sound waves bouncing off of in your body to produce sound. They have to, otherwise there'd be no sound. So there's the literal resonance, and then there's sort of like sympathetic or metaphorical resonance of other places that we're maybe sort of feeling vibration or feeling the sound in our bodies. And that can move and it can change all the time as we're singing. So having an expectation for that and a sensory memory for that can help set you up better. So for instance, if I want to sing a high belty note, I'm going to need a lot of twang in that. Twang usually feels like resonance here. So if I'm going for that high belty note, but I'm aiming it here, I'm not going to get there. But if I'm aiming it here, now I get there right away because I know where I'm trying to aim the resonance. The terms head voice and chest voice came from people experiencing resonance in certain places. So if you're aiming for head voice, expecting to feel resonance up here can be really helpful. If you're aiming for chest voice, expecting to feel resonance here can be really, really helpful. So your expectation for resonance is also really going to impact your ability to land right on the pitch without having to navigate around a little bit. And again, there are lots of places that we can experience it. So I encourage you on this path, like once you do kind of get to the right pitch area, be like, how does this feel? Where am I feeling the resonance? Can I accurately name which register I'm in? And if you can't, that's okay. What's more important is quantifying the sensory experience you're having. So then when you stop, you aim for that same sensory experience again, and ideally you've improved your ability to land right on the pitch. Again, come back to your house analogy. Like the more times you walk in the dark into that other room, the more accurate you're going to get with it because you know what it feels like to walk that path. It's exactly the same way we were saying because you can't see this stuff. So you got to use your other senses to help you get there. All right. That's how you're going to improve your pitch accuracy and your pitch matching. You guys, I have worked probably with thousands of people in my 20 years of teaching, and I have yet to meet someone who I couldn't teach to match pitch. And it's not because I'm a genius. It's because you can do it. It is possible. You just have to have some of these parameters in place. I think I heard the stat somewhere that only 1% of the population is tone deaf. You are likely not the 1%, okay? So you can improve your pitch matching abilities. Don't think that there's no hope for you. Like I said, I've never, ever encountered someone who couldn't improve this skill. So do these things, and I think you'll see a lot of improvement. Good luck, you guys, and happy singing.